20,000 years ago in prehistoric Europe, a small group of hunters, led by their leader Tao, prepared to attack a herd of steppe bison. They formed a wall of spears, causing most of the bison to stampede off a cliff. However, 3 bison remained behind, and one particularly aggressive bull charged at Tao's son, Keda. The bull savagely struck Keda with its horns and dragged him to the cliff's edge. Just as Keda teetered on the brink, Tao struck the beast with his spear, sending Keda plummeting into the abyss below. This dramatic event began 1 week earlier when the teenagers of the tribe were tested on their spear-making skills. Only Keda and his friend Kappa passed the test, earning them a place on the final hunting expedition before winter. As part of their initiation into adulthood, they endured a ritual beating from the other men to teach them that pain would accompany their journey through life. They were then blessed by the local shaman at the campfire. Later that night, while pretending to sleep, Keda overheard a conversation between Tao and his mother, Ro. Ro expressed her concerns that Keda wasn't ready to hunt, believing he led with his heart rather than his spear. However, Tao insisted that Keda needed to prove himself to the tribe. The next morning, the hunting party set out after bidding farewell to their loved ones and receiving the shaman's blessing. Ro even gave Keda an extra piece of fur as a token of safety. The group traveled across the land, following the sacred path marked by a series of rock sculptures left by their ancestors. These sculptures, adorned with hand paintings, pointed them in the direction of the hunting grounds. Along the way, they encountered another hunting party led by Shi, an old friend of Tao's who had recently lost his son. The 2 groups joined forces and continued their journey together. Throughout the trip, Keda made several attempts to prove himself to his father, but he struggled. He couldn't start a fire and hesitated to kill a boar that the other men had captured, leaving him feeling like a failure. One night, while the group sat around the fire, they heard a noise behind them. Instantly, they leaped into a defensive position. When nothing appeared, they relaxed, a mistake they soon regretted. Suddenly, a cave lion leaped out of the darkness and snatched Kappa, dragging him away to be its next meal. The next morning, the men build a cairn to hold a memorial service for Kappa, symbolizing the passage of his spirit to the afterlife. The journey continues with brief stops, only for hunting and rest. One evening, after finding a large and safe cave to sleep in, Tao takes the opportunity to have Keda tattooed with the constellations, just like him, so that Keda will always find his way home. After several days, they discover a trail of dung leading them to a herd of steppe bison, bringing the story back to where it began. As Keda falls from the cliff, he desperately tries to grasp a rough edge, but he slips, landing on a lower ledge, where he breaks his leg and loses consciousness. Desperate to save his son, Tao attempts to climb down, but his fellow hunters stop him, pointing out that it's too late. While the men prepare the sleds to carry the bison, Tao remains by the cliff's edge, crying in denial. After the hunt is equally divided, Shi's party leaves to return home, leaving Tao's group to spend one final night camping before convincing their leader that it's time to move on. The following morning, Tao builds another cairn while tears of grief continue to fall. Hours after the party has left, a vulture lands on Keda, trying to feed on him. The bird's attack rouses Keda, who pushes it away by wringing its neck. Realizing the dire situation he's in, Keda drags his broken leg behind him as he tries to climb down the cliff. With too few rough edges to hold onto, he hangs there in agony for a long moment. As a storm approaches and begins flooding the ground below, Keda understands what he must do. He lets go of his grip, plunging into the water below and losing consciousness once more. When Keda wakes the next morning, the rain has stopped and the floodwaters have receded. After drinking water from a puddle and splinting his injured leg, he slowly makes his way back to the top of the cliff, where he finds the memorial his father left for him. In frustration, Keda kicks the cairn over, realizing he's been left alone and must find his way home by himself. Keda begins his solitary journey, surviving on bugs, filling his canteen with water from puddles, and climbing trees at night to sleep safely away from predators. When a pack of wolves finds Keda in the middle of the day, he bolts for a tree, but not before one of the wolves grabs his leg. Keda stabs the wolf and manages to climb to safety. He remains at the top of the tree until the wolves lose interest and leave, except for the injured one. Keda prepares a spear to finish the wolf off but hesitates, unable to bring himself to do it. Ignoring the wolf's painful whining proves impossible, so Keda decides to help. He ties up the wolf's snout to avoid being bitten, then carries it to a nearby lake to clean its wound. Unfortunately, they can't rest there long, as hyenas are nearby, so Keda carries the wolf again until they find shelter in a cave where they can safely sleep. The next morning, Keda finds a mortar near a pile of bones and uses it to create a plant salve, which he applies to his injured foot. Meanwhile, the wolf manages to free its snout. Seeing the wolf's calm demeanor, Keda decides to share his water with it. After some growling, the wolf finally accepts. Keda even uses the fur his mother gave him to clean the wolf's wound and shares the worms he finds with it. However, worms aren't enough to sustain them, him, so Keda musters the courage to make his first real hunt. He kills a rabbit with a rock and finally manages to start a fire to cook it. When the wolf tries to take the rabbit, Keda quickly asserts his dominance, recalling the leadership lessons his father taught him. He eats first, feeding the wolf only after he's finished. Despite sharing his food, the wolf still doesn't allow him to touch it. Winter is approaching fast, and Keda knows he must find his way home before the snow falls. Though he doubts he can make it without his father, he knows he has to try. After gathering enough supplies and wrestling the wolf for his fur back, Keda leaves the cave. The wolf stubbornly follows him, despite Keda's repeated attempts to send it away. Eventually, Keda gives up and accepts the wolf as his new travel companion, even training it to come when he whistles. Their initial attempts at hunting together are failures, but after a few tries, they synchronize their attacks and successfully catch prey. At night, Keda checks their direction using the constellation tattoo on his hand, while the wolf, now trusting him, sleeps beside him. After an afternoon of bathing and fishing in a lake, Keda decides to name the wolf Alpha. Their journey takes so long that winter finally catches up with them, and snow begins to fall. One evening, as they sit by the bonfire, they are approached by a pack of wolves that turns out to be Alpha's family. Understanding the pain of missing loved ones, Keda urges Alpha to rejoin its pack, leaving him to continue the journey alone. As time passes, snowstorms grow more frequent, slowing Keda's progress. His resolve weakens further after a haunting dream, where Tao returns home to deliver the devastating news to Ro. Days later, trudging through yet another storm, Keda unexpectedly encounters Alpha and its pack. Overcome with relief, he runs towards them, but the ice beneath his feet gives way, plunging him into freezing water. As his mother's fur and most of his equipment drift away, Keda desperately strikes the ice with his knife until he breaks through enough for Alpha to drag him out. Reunited, Keda and Alpha resume their journey together. That night, Keda sleeps clutching Alpha, drawing warmth from the wolf's body to fight off the cold. After covering a few more miles, they discover a trail of tracks leading to a hut, but inside, they find only the frozen remains of its owner. With no food available, Keda grabs a bow and arrow, ignoring Alpha's concern when he suddenly starts coughing up blood. Later, the pair find themselves in a dire situation. Hyenas are closing in behind them, while a fierce storm looms ahead. They run until they find shelter in a cave, only to face a new threat, a cave lion, which attacks without hesitation. Alpha battles the lion ferociously while Keda readies his bow, focusing intently before finally striking the lion down. Though victorious, Alpha emerges from the fight severely wounded. The two continue their arduous journey through the relentless snowstorm, eventually stumbling upon the sculpture that marks the sacred path. Keda's spirits lift as he realizes they must be close to home. His hope grows even stronger when the northern lights appear in the sky, a sign that his ancestors are guiding them. However, Alpha is now too weak to continue, and eventually, the wolf collapses. Refusing to abandon his friend, Keda lifts Alpha into his arms, ignoring his own weakness and worsening condition as he struggles to keep moving. As the conditions become unbearable, Keda too collapses, overwhelmed by exhaustion. But then a memory surfaces in a dream, the conversation he overheard between his parents the night before their departure. To ease RHO's worries, Tao had reassured her that Keda was stronger than he realized. Reinvigorated by his father's faith in him, Keda awakens with renewed determination. He picks up Alpha once more and carries him through the storm, pressing on until they finally reach the safety of his tribe. No one can believe their eyes when Keda and Alpha arrive. Tao, overcome with emotion, rushes to his son, tears streaming down his face as he embraces Keda, telling him how proud he is of his strength and determination. The entire tribe gathers around, marveling at the incredible bond between Keda and the wolf. Tao gently guides them both into a tent where they can be cared for. After Keda is patched up and fed, the shaman examines Alpha and quickly uncovers the source of her distress. Alpha is not just injured, she is female and is about to give birth. The tribe watches in awe and anticipation as Alpha gives birth to a litter of healthy, squirming puppies. Each pup is welcomed into the world with reverence, and the tribe immediately embraces them as part of their family. The bond between Keda and Alpha has not only saved both their lives, but has also brought new life to the tribe. The shaman blesses the newborns, and the tribe rejoices, seeing this as a powerful omen of good fortune and unity. As the seasons pass, the puppies grow into strong and loyal adult wolves, each inheriting the fierce spirit and intelligence of their mother. Keda, now a respected figure in the tribe, helps train the wolves alongside the hunters. The wolves learn to work in harmony with their human partners, forming bonds that are as deep and unbreakable as the one between Keda and Alpha. It is clear that this partnership between man and wolf will endure for generations, a legacy of survival, trust, and the extraordinary journey that brought them together.